Okay, today we're with Paddy Tully. Paddy is the Sustrans project manager or senior engineer for the Two Tunnels route. Some of you may be aware of Paddy but haven't actually seen him in the flesh, as it were. So welcome, Paddy. Thanks for appearing on the Two Tunnels video blog. And a few questions for you, if we may.
Sure.
You arrived a couple of years ago on the project now, specifically to engineer to take forward the Two Tunnels scheme. How do you think things have been going over that 2 years, and what sort of challenges do you see for the upcoming months?
Well, I think from my background as engineer, I'd suggest that I think when I started, perhaps in a bit of a naive way, I thought it would be all built very quickly and very simple, which in engineering terms the Two Tunnels scheme is.
Yeah.
But taking forward the issues to do with actually getting the project approved by the council, some of the remaining planning issues to do with the project have taken a bit longer than perhaps I'd wished. However, I think actually now we've got the project moving, I'm really pleased that the end is in sight. Really, we're there. We've got over the hump, as it were, and the project's moving on. So that's really good. Major challenges in the coming months. There are still, the issues of actually getting the tunnels open, I think, is one of the key things. It's still quite a challenge to get to a point where all the various parties who are within the project team, as it were, are happy that things are going to happen in the correct way. We're not exposing people to undue risk by opening the tunnels and all the rest of it, which I'm fairly certain, or I'm happy from Sustrans' point of view, that we can satisfy, but it's just ensuring that all the other parties are happy throughout the project team, really, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Turning to the bridges, the two bridges over Monksdale Road and Millmead Road. It seems that we seem to wait for an eternity for approval on that, but that was forthcoming fairly recently. I'm looking forward to sitting in my deck chair and watching the bridges being delivered in two halves, I believe, on a low loader and being put up. What's the sort of time frame for making that happen now, Paddy?
Well, as you say, I'm really pleased we've now got planning permission for the two bridges, and the next thing that people see happen on site is the site clearance, so removing the trees and some of the scrub from the two bridge locations, so that we can get on with construction in hopefully 2 or 3 months' time. On the site, it might take 6 or 8 weeks to actually construct the earthworks and the foundations of the bridges, and then the actual delivery and installation of the bridges is a day's work for each bridge. So you're right, Frank, you'll be able to sit there with your sun umbrella up, hopefully, because it will still be sunny at that time of year.
Very exciting times. Yeah.
Would really hope that late summer is achievable for delivery of the bridges. I don't see any major issues stopping that at the moment, but as with any construction project, there's always something that could come out of the woodwork and change that.
Right, okay. Well, I'll take my sun hat when I take the deck chair as well, with a bit of luck. Turning to Linear Park, Sustrans has got about, with the exception of the gap for the bridges, about a mile of tarmac laid now, which is absolutely fantastic, and I think we're all now seeing something on the ground that we can actually utilise. Once we've got the Network Rail Bridge to Bellocs Road done as well, you'll be turning your attention to the tunnels and Lincoln Vale and that sort of area. What sort of any particular difficulties, any particular challenges on that?
I mean, not really. There's nothing that aren't overcomeable, really, I suppose, as I keep saying. The structural works of the bridges are in effect quite simple. There's no major structural works to do. It's just really tidying them up a bit and making them pleasant for people to use, I suppose, as much as anything else. The surfacing of the route itself isn't an overly complicated thing. There are a few repairs to some of the bridges in Lincoln Vale we have to do, but equally they're not too time-consuming and not too onerous. I think there are some challenges to do with the lighting still, and working out what the best form for the lighting is. We've obviously got the requirements for the lighting in place, so we know what it is we need to deliver in terms of light output and how long the lights are on for, but actually how we deliver that light and the best way to do that in the most sustainable way is still something that we're looking into.
It's been quite tricky, the lighting issue, isn't it? It's not a case of going down to B&Q and plugging in a few bulbs into
No. What we want to deliver is a lighting system that will last for a long time and will enable the tunnels to be used, and not something that has issues with failure. And we really want to get in the most robust system we can at the start, so that everyone is really happy to use the tunnels all the time. Moving on from there, the other issue obviously with the tunnels is bats, and again there are bats which live within the tunnels, but we're doing everything we can to make sure we don't do anything to disturb the bats through the construction works and through the opening of the tunnels, and hopefully satisfy the relevant authorities when we do that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So sounds as if we have a plan, and it's more the kind of bureaucracy and the sidelines than the actual engineering that could potentially get in the way, and hopefully it won't. How about Tucking Mill Viaduct? That fantastic structure. It looks quite a sort of complicated engineering job. Any particular issues on that one?
I mean, no, again, it's proper Victorian engineering. It's built to last. There are a few bits and pieces we have to do, some repointing of some of the brickwork. For example, some of the parapets have been lowered, so we'll have to rebuild some of the parapets. But again, they're not major engineering works to do anything to them. It will probably involve a scaffold being put up around it, but nothing too major. Obviously, removing the vegetation from the top of it and doing that in a way that we take care of the ecology that's on there as well is something I'm very keen on.
Because it's quite a little micro ecological system.
There is, yeah. It's a piece of land that gets a lot of sun and has been closed off from humans for a while. So yeah, it is quite special, and we're going to be making sure we relocate any wildlife and any important flora from the bridge to other sites locally on the route when we do so. But generally, it's not a huge issue, Tucking Mill Viaduct. I mean, it's a huge structure. Yeah. There aren't any huge issues surrounding it. So.
Okay, and while we're on the subject of wildlife, the wildlife which is currently on the route, I mean, it's not particularly spectacular, but how would you see us going about maintaining what we have and perhaps giving a chance for other things, to other plants and wild animals or butterflies to actually to flourish along the route?
Well, one of the things Sustrans will be doing, especially in Lincoln Vale and south of Coombe Down Fund, is working to remove some of the invasive species that have taken over some of the embankments at the side of the railway line in recent years. So removing things like laurel that generally take over the area and reduce the ecological value. So we'll be doing a lot of work to remove those as part of construction works. With trees, obviously there are some trees that will need to be removed to build the bridges, but every tree we will plant at least one tree on the route to ensure that we're not removing trees from the local area. Ongoing in the future, we'll be looking for volunteers, either Sustrans Rangers or possible friends of the Two Tunnels group or something like that, to look at doing work days to ensure that those things we do during construction to encourage ecology along the route are maintained. So where we remove invasive species, perhaps once every 5 years go back and do another piece of work to continue removing those invasive species, so you allow the sort of local flora and fauna to flourish.
Yeah. And that's something which we kind of started within the Two Tunnels group, but obviously we'll continue to develop over time. The sequence of opening the tunnels and Tucking Mill Viaduct, will that be a sequential thing, or will that happen as in one go, if you like?
No, that will happen in one phase, effectively. For the works to the Two Tunnels, Tucking Mill Viaduct and Lincoln Vale, all the construction works will take place from the northern end of Devonshire Tunnel. So material will be taken through the Two Tunnels and along, because there's no real point of access anywhere else along that section of the route. So although we might have finished works at one place, we'll still be using the whole site, as it were. So they will be opening in one big go, effectively.
Right. Okay. And we currently, we've always been a bit cautious, I think, in saying that we're talking about the end of this year for completion of the route. do you still see that as being achievable, nothing that's likely to creep out of the woodwork and trip us up?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still fairly confident that the end of the year is achievable in terms of completing the project. Can you say with any construction project that there's going to be a firm completion by Sunday? Then there's nothing that we come across. I think it would be unwise to suggest that it's definitely going to be finished by the end of the year, but I'm fairly confident that should happen still.
Yeah, good. I'm sure a lot of people will be very pleased to hear that from the horse's mouth, as it were. And lastly, if you had one wish for the two tunnels route for the future, what would that wish be?
I think I'd like to have two wishes if possible, Frank.
Okay, we'll allow you to.
One is
doesn't have a list.
One is I thought we'd achieve this up. I get three anyway. One is that people use and enjoy the route, both local people from within Bath and people from further afield making longer journeys on the National Cycle Network and using the route to go on down the Collier's Way and further afield and onto the Bristol to Bath path and the Connect2 canal routes and the rest of it, and it turns into something that forms a real used part of the National Cycle Network, I suppose, is one of my personal aims. And the other one is that we continue to have a group of very interested local volunteers who look after the route. I mean, Sustrans do have some maintenance requirements for the route, and we'll be fulfilling those, but the real success of the route lies in having a dedicated group of local volunteers who do their best to promote and look after the route and ensure that it's in its best state at all times and can alert Sustrans to any bigger problems that need solving, but equally can do things like some vegetation management on our behalf more frequently and more informally.
Yeah, as I said earlier, that's something we kind of started to do but need to develop within the Two Tunnels group, and I think one of the great pluses of the Two Tunnels route is that there has been so much interest from local people, 99% good. Schools have also been involved, so we'll aim to develop that in the future. Good, fine. Thank you very much for that, Paddy. I hope people found that informative, and perhaps in a few months' time we might have another little go and see what progress we made in the meantime.
Sure.
Great. Thanks very much, Paddy.
Thanks, Frank.
Cut.